Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Happy Friday, by the way. As you know, I am the facilitator for Entrepreneurs Double Your Income. And on Fridays, we like to focus on some of the brilliance that we have in our membership. And this is one lady who is an additionally um, wonderful and brilliant person. I've had the great opportunity to chat with her, and it's been fun. And I think you're going to enjoy this topic. This is Jenny Richardson. She is a dating coach. Yes. How does dating and entrepreneurship, how do they marry? Well, we're going to find out today. And so, Jenny, tell me a little bit about your background. What led you to become a dating coach?
I think primarily I had lost my husband coming up to 5 years
Oh,
ago,
sorry.
and I think that got me I guess with a lot of life changes, like big life changes like that, is that it gets you looking into what you've got in your life and what you want going forwards. And so I did a lot of reflection during that sort of initial grieving period, and came across coaching, I think through part of that grieving process, and found it really helpful. So I trained up to be a coach, and then, having done it for just over a year as a general life coach, I decided that the relationships and dating side of stuff was the people that I really enjoyed helping. It helped me with relationships that I had, kind of, even because I've got a very good relationship with my family, but it made those relationships even better, and the relationship with myself as well. So I think I just decided, because those are the ones that I really loved helping. And obviously I've got back into dating as well, which was a bit unexpected. I wasn't I wasn't anticipating that. So I've learned things as I've gone through, and I found that the coaching skills that I had were really helpful, because dating can be quite up and down emotionally, and I think it can throw you off quite a bit if you've got disappointed or rejected. I think it takes a lot of kind of inner work to help you stay on top of that and actually find the enjoyment in it as well, which I think is really important.
You're making an absolute fantastic point there. So, what are your processes as you work with a client? And let me just say that back in the day, this was many years ago. I have to get back into the scene again, Jenny. But there were kind of different kind of dating apparatuses, I guess, or models out there. You'd call someone who would do matchmaking, for instance,
Yes.
or I did that, or I've done online dating, and and kind of earmarked a girlfriend to be there sometimes in the midst of me dating someone. I had her right there at at a luncheon or at a dinner in the background somewhere, making sure that Rosalind was safe. So what?
Yeah.
So what are the processes that you use to help a client with dating?
Yeah, it's not a matchmaking service.
Oh,
I kind of believe wholeheartedly that people are the best judge of what's good for them. And I think sometimes some of that early work is involved in kind of looking at your past relationships that you've had, and not just seeing them as failures because they didn't work out long term. Because I think even the relationships that didn't last, we can learn a lot from them. So I think, for me, it was, it's just really helpful to kind of tap into what you know about yourself and the kind of relationship that you're looking for. And then I do coach people specifically on online dating, because I think although the apps have their downsides, I think the big upside is that there's a lot of people on there all looking for the same thing. I think if we can park the people, because there are some people on there that are either not real profiles or they're not looking for a relationship. But I would say the vast majority of people on the dating apps are looking for the same things that we are. So there's a big resource there, and it's convenient. You can date from your sofa. in the initial stages,
Yes.
which feels safe. Like you say, you touched on the safety element, which I think is really important. And yeah, I think the apps are quite geared up around the safety side of things, and there's lots of information on those apps. When I started dating, it was like I'd heard about being safe, but I was like, what does that even look like? Because when I dated, I didn't even know about matchmaking. It was just you went out with your friends and you met someone.
Right.
So I think there was a lot to learn, but there is stuff within the apps that can kind of teach you the basics of how to stay safe. But a lot of it is just being very sensible.
Mm.
Like you say, telling your friends where you're going, making sure that they know who you're meeting and things like that, having it be in a public place and everything. Because if you don't feel safe, you're not going to have fun. And I think for me, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, when do you know that you're ready to date?
Yeah, good question. Again, I know this probably from making some mistakes myself in the early stages. I
Yes.
think for me, the two things that you can pay attention to that show that you're perhaps not ready are if you're thinking that you should be doing it. And that was a big thought of mine, is that I should have got over this grieving process by now. I should be further
Mhm.
along in this process. And that grieving process counts when you've had a big breakup or a divorce. It's not just when when you've been bereaved. But thinking that you should be further along and that you should be dating is a bit of a red flag. And the other one is if you're doing it to kind of make yourself feel better, it's usually a sign that you're using dating to kind of mask feelings that need to be dealt with, I think.
Oh,
And
let's park right there for a second because that is a good one and very typical for a lot of us. Thinking that being in a relationship is going to fill a void.
yeah,
Make me feel better about myself. But what I'm hearing you say is that that void needs to be addressed. What is the nature of that void,
yeah,
and growing personally and doing the work so that you can come into the dating world not so needy and graspy. Am I
yeah,
understanding that correctly?
yes, yeah. Because I think, if you feel like there's something missing, if you're not in a relationship, or that you can't be happy unless you're with somebody else, I
Mhm.
think what we say, you're going to enter dating kind of willing to accept things that you perhaps shouldn't. And I think if you go into dating, and because you mentioned there about doing the work, and yes, there's the kind of internal work that we need to do as we go through it, but I think a lot of it is figuring out what is fun for you. What do because and that can be great, exploring some of that, because when you're on your own, you're not trying to be anything for somebody else. So you're
Mhm.
free to explore, which can be a bit uncomfortable because we're not used to just pleasing ourselves a lot of the time, but exploring the things that excite you and get you fired up, the causes that you believe in and the values that you've got. I think exploring all of that when you're single is a fantastic opportunity.
I want
Um,
to park on that for a little bit. That's a good point right there, Jenny. Because in my limited dating life, um, that there is a self discovery going through the process of dating. When I was younger, I didn't understand that this was a vehicle for me to understand what are my bottom lines.
mm,
What was some of what were the traits that I really really needed in my life? How to have fun in dating,
yeah.
how to be discriminating in dating, uh,
Mm,
all of these things. So what I'm saying is that it sounds like a growing process if you let dating be that. And I think sometimes we shop longer for cars, getting a new car
you're not wrong.
than we do when it comes to dating and picking a mate. And I've always scratched my head about that, but it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a really nice way of putting it, that you said that it's a vehicle for kind of learning about yourself, because that kind of circles back round to thinking of all the relationships that you've had so far and not beating yourself up about them not working. Because the ones that didn't work, for a start, you learn a lot about yourself in those situations and about what you want and what you're willing to compromise on and what you aren't. And also, it's just, even within a bad relationship or a relationship that failed, there's going to be some things in there that were successful, that you were happy for some period of that relationship.
Mhm.
And what can that teach you as well? Because I think sometimes that very black and white thinking can be what sort of sucks some of the fun out of dating. Is if
Yes.
we're worrying, because what makes dating fun, or what makes it not fun, is that worry that it's not going to work out, or that you're going to
Mhm.
be disappointed or hurt again. And that's kind of a big part of it. So if you can remove that judgment about a relationship being either a success or a failure, it's either one or the other, rather than
Mhm.
a bit of a mix of both. Because even in successful relationships and happy marriages, it's not all sunshines and daisies, is it? So,
Absolutely not. Yes.
I would definitely
Yes.
say my marriage was predominantly happy, but we had ups and downs in it. So, he wasn't perfect, I wasn't perfect, so I think there's a lot to be learned in there. And I think sometimes people skip over that because they just want to get over the heartbreak or the pain.
Right. And what's interesting to me also is that, like you said, if you somehow just loosen your expectations,
Mm.
I started learning that I needed to loosen my expectations. I didn't go in there with like you said, prejudge the situation. I didn't know if I was going to like the personality of the guy just because I loved the profile and the picture of him. I had let's wait and see. Let's just enjoy this moment.
Yeah.
Let's see where it goes. And I think that's when the fun begins. When you go in there not trying to put a wedding ring on this man to quit some people, I'm just being honest, some women have already thought about their wedding and what it's going to look like, and they haven't even really talked to the gentleman yet. you know and and so that boils down to, I think, a lot of discipline, self-discipline. I found that to be sometimes the hardest part of dating, because maybe a gentleman, maybe for the first couple of dates, oh my goodness, he just smelled like, my goodness, my favorite cologne. He just smelled like roses. But I wasn't giving it necessarily time for me to really see in real time, over time,
Mm.
what this gentleman was really made of. He hadn't really entered my world
Yeah.
enough to know what my world looked like, and for to meet my friends who would tell me the absolute truth. Um,
They're-
so those are sometimes, and do we listen when they tell us the absolute truth? Right?
Not always.
Oh, Katie, you don't know him. um, but but I mean these responsibilities fall on us as the
Mm.
person who's out there dating, and I don't think we protect ourselves all the time enough emotionally,
Yeah.
as we go out there. And again, it comes right back around, Jenny, to closing that hole in your soul,
Yes.
and to be able to wait and evaluate. And what keeps you? How can you keep yourself from glomming on
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
one
I know
particular guy who appears great, but we don't know yet? What would you suggest for someone like
Okay. There's a couple. The first one is a strategy piece, which I don't know if you've done it, because I think it's quite common, particularly with men, but to date like quite a few people at the same time.
that? Mm,
For people that are busy, like women that are running their own business, that can feel like hard work. Um, But specifically for me, I feel like at the very beginning stages, so when you first go on the apps, there is a lot to choose from. And I think certainly in the first month or two, talk to lots of people, because when you're talking to people just via text, a lot come and go in those early stages. And I think when people disappear, because they sometimes disappear without any explanation whatsoever, it can really get you down. And if that happens a few times, you can get really down and start thinking it's something about you. Whereas
Yes.
if that person is one of a dozen people that you're chatting to, it's not such a big deal because you've not got so attached to that one person. And I think once you get into the dating part of it, I think you can quite quickly feel if there's a connection and chemistry there.
Hmm.
I think it would be difficult to date 12 people at once, but I think dating 2 or 3 people while you're figuring that stuff out kind of prevents you from, like you say, trying to imagine and projecting too far ahead in terms of where is this going. I think
Yes.
that kind of protects you a bit.
I think that's a marvelous point, is to not get too attached. And to do that means that you have to, it's work,
Mm,
to date several people at once.
yeah,
But that's where I think the protection lies right there. I
yeah.
think
I think it
in
just gives
doing
you,
that.
yeah, I think it gives you, when you do that, it gives you a little bit of perspective and space to kind of decide who is worth your time. And like I said, in those first few weeks and months, people reveal to you the kind of people that they are and what they're looking for, and they might not be the right fit for you. So I think if you're dating a few at the same time, you don't want it to become stressful. So I think you've got to figure out that number for yourself and what feels comfortable. And we're not talking like 6 months down the line still dating lots of people if that doesn't feel right for you, but it's just in that chatting phase and those first dates where it's a coffee date maybe or lunch. It's keeping those options open, I think, at the beginning is really helpful.
Very good. And so, what matters most when you're looking for a partner?
Mhm. For me personally, I think chemistry is really important, and that's not necessarily like just physical chemistry. It's like when you meet people and you can just chat for hours and lose track of time. For that to happen, I think is really important for me. And that doesn't happen on every date, doesn't happen in every conversation. But um, I also think the main thing that's important is the value part. Is
Hmm.
like, do they have the same values as you? And it's those things that it take a little bit of time to get those out of people, because people don't just come and present everything to you on the first date, do they?
Right, right.
It's just part of figuring out. But for me, figuring out what values you really appreciate in a person.
Hmm.
Um, and that's where looking on those past relationships, but also the friends that you've got, what values do you really appreciate in your friends and family? Because they can give you really good tips. Because of course you want to find them attractive and the conversation to flow, but the values are the things that are going to keep you together longer term.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's good information. So, I want to ask you about timelines, and I know this is a difficult question to answer, but at what point do you think a relationship should be moving along? Sometimes I find that a man's idea of a timeline is different from a woman's ideal of a timeline. So, a woman's going out with one gentleman for 3 months, and she considers this to be on the way to something special. A
Mm-hmm.
gentleman, on the other hand, can be going out with you, and there's oftentimes that, what's a good timeline for a woman to finally say, look, friend, we need we need to talk. I want to know what kind of relationship, where are we going? I've been spending quite a lot of time with you, because that is all negotiable. And to be very honest with you and candid with you, uh, I don't have a lot of time
Mm.
as an entrepreneur, and I have made mistakes in even even talking too long, just talking to people who didn't want, giving my time, giving my energy, giving my emotions, and then I find out that he or it's not as serious to him as maybe I was kind of get going there,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I had that definitely in the beginning, and it kind of helped me figure out what some people are doing. And it's almost, I think it happens maybe more with men because of the circumstances, maybe if they've had a marriage breakup and the kids that he's got with his ex-wife aren't with him at certain times of the week. And I think I found that I came across a pattern that there was people that were very full on texting during the week when they didn't have the kids, and then would disappear for a period of time.
Mhm.
And I think for me, and I've also had people where I've spoken to them for like 3 or 4 weeks on the apps, and then they just disappear. So
Mhm.
I think it's hard, but trying not to take that personally as any kind of a reflection on you, because I think people have got different circumstances, and they're looking for different things. And sometimes it's just a bit of spending time in the evenings talking without any anticipation of it going any further. And for me, it helped if I thought, if I'm talking to somebody and I really like them, I want to meet them. So even in a pandemic, that has been possible to some degree, that you can meet up outside for a walk or something like that. So unless there's a really good reason why you can't meet up, I'm like, why wouldn't somebody want to meet up within the first couple of weeks? If they've not asked me out, I just don't think they're that serious, or they haven't felt that connection. So I've learned now not to let that first part of the process drag on too long, because I think if somebody likes you and they're interested, they would want to meet you. Why wouldn't they?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think I'm a bit I'm a bit forthright in the sense that I would like them to ask me out. I don't go chasing, but at the same time, I don't put up with somebody that's just wanting to text for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time, because I think that shows that they're not looking for a relationship.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. So you need to be able to understand the I guess the behaviors
Mm,
of someone that you're potentially dating to get that's feedback for you.
yeah,
So
I think
so
some.
I'm assuming. Excuse me for a second, Jenny. I'm assuming these are the times that I run to you as the dating coach, right? And say, Jenny, it's been 5 days, and all he wants to do is. And this is when you're giving your wisdom. Is this
Yeah, yeah, and I think
okay?
yeah, so definitely it'd be like, I think it's managing the things that are going on in your mind when you're
Hmm.
going through that process, because sometimes it's if you're sometimes people are reluctant to let people like that go because they're worried that they don't want to make a snap decision and get rid of somebody that's really good,
Hmm.
potentially really good. But at the same time, it's that worry of maybe there isn't anybody else better out there. And so I think that's what's important, is figuring out what are you worth. And you're worth somebody who is going to want to spend time with you and make time for that. And although we're all busy, and if we're running businesses and maybe if we've got kids as well and things like that, we're all really strapped for time. But I always think, I didn't think I had time for dating. But then I learned we find time for the things that we want to do.
True. That's
I can
true.
be very efficient with work things when I know I've got
This is true. This
things to
is
do.
true. Do you have any other tips for us to help us through this dating process?
Yeah, I think there is that. Well, the top tip is to keep your options open early on, like I've said. If people are not committing and asking you out, don't be afraid to let them go. And also, it's natural to be a bit nervous, because I find a lot of people are coming going, I'm ready to give up dating. I've had enough. And they're not quite ready to let go. They want to get that, they really want that relationship. And I think they feel those nerves and that vulnerability. And I think that is completely natural, because I think doing anything where you're putting yourself on the line a little bit can feel very vulnerable and nerve-wracking. So I think accepting that you're going to feel like that, but there's the hope that you're going to meet somebody amazing, and that's so worth it. Because I think quite often I find that people meet someone when they've just been on the verge of giving up, because I think they almost relax a little bit, because it's like, well, this is the last ditch attempt, and it's like they're a little bit less attached to it working how they expect it to. They're just going in with a little bit more of a kind of an open mind.
That's wonderful. And my last question, because I see that we're coming up on about 30 minutes. How do you increase and how do you frame things so that you're enjoying yourself more as you're dating, instead of sweating and being self-conscious? It would be nice to go in this with some ease and enjoyment.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to be happy and well, maybe not happy, but content where you are. I think if you've got a life that you enjoy, you're not needing something to fill a hole or a void that's there. I think that's really helpful. And you touched on it earlier on as well about staying present in the moment, because I think when you're either living in the past and worrying about everything that's gone before, or projecting forward and anticipating problems or worries ahead of time, it kind of sucks all the fun out of the situation. So finding a way to be very present. And our minds, I don't know if you've ever meditated, but our minds are always thinking things. So it's just like when you're aware of that happening, not being annoyed with yourself or frustrated, it's just like that's what our brains do, but recognizing it and kind of bringing it back to the present moment, and what can you enjoy in this moment. And I think most people, whether we're introverts or extroverts, we love getting to know somebody else and finding that as like a learning experience about another person, about dating and about ourselves. I think that for me is the fun part of dating. It's not necessarily the attachment to where it's leading.
Oh, that's beautifully put. Beautifully put. And I think really, really true. When we can really grasp that, I think dating is less of a chore. I think that it could be a lot of fun, and we can grow tremendously once we have that attitude. If someone, I'll probably talk to you later, but if someone, Jenny, wants to secure your services, how can they do that? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah. Well, I have a group on Facebook called Smart Women Dating Intelligently. So if they wanted to join the group, I do live trainings in there. We have Q&As and things like that. So if people wanted to join that, to get in, and they can find me on Facebook and message me via Messenger.
Quickly, I want to read some of the comments of our listeners. So Kate Nash has been here the whole time, and she was agreeing with you that dating has its ups and downs, and it can become difficult without the right mindset. And she also mentions it's hard to believe that there's someone amazing, I guess, out there. And there are, but as in anything, I think it's a needle in a haystack. You really have to take your time, right? Go through the volumes of guys.
I don't think for me, yes, there are bad people out there, but I don't think that the good guys are a needle in a haystack. I think it's, I personally, it's just finding people that you click with. And I don't believe in the whole soulmate idea. I think there are lots of people that we can have relationships with, and they be very successful if we've got the right mindset for it. So I think going out there and finding the people that you click with and align with in the things that you want, and kind of exploring that without the expectation that, like you say, that there's one in a million that we're trying to find, because I think that can be a bit distressing if you're thinking you're trying to find that one person that
that's true. You make a good point. Well, I guess what I'm emphasizing is definitely it is when you're looking for a good employee, you go through a lot of applicants
Yes. Yeah.
to find that one that's, oh, this one fits the business. This one I resonate with this employee. And I think it's the same with dating, that, yes, there are a lot of good people out there that you don't resonate, or you're looking for something in particular. And so it does take a while to go through, a number of people before you go, aha, this is the person who has potential. Let me explore this further. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's how I look at it. That's just my experience. I don't know if you feel the same.
No, I would agree. I think there are people that the people that you click with, and that, that's not going to be every person. And so I think keeping your options open early on, you can get through a lot of people in those early stages and kind of start to learn the things that you like and the things that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being here, Jenny. It was a lot of fun, and I think we learned a lot. I really want to encourage all of our listeners. Could you give us the name of your Facebook group one more time?
Yeah, that's Smart Women Dating Intelligently.
Smart Women Dating Intelligently. That is worth looking up, the Facebook group, and joining. And I'm sure there's a lot of support in the group.
Yes.
Again, we're going to have you back. We're going to let you know how we are in our dating processes.
More questions.
We'll have more questions. And for now, I want everyone to have a wonderful weekend. And also, Jenny, you too. Until next time, everyone, peace and blessings. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.